Welcome to Ear to the Common Ground. Here, we celebrate the power of music and food to bring Americans together. Filmed from a historic barn on Cash Lane in Music City, each episode features one musical artist and a diverse gathering of 8 of their fans. Everyone brings a dish to the table, and they talk about one of the issues of the day face to face, with compassion replacing contempt, as they keep their hearts, ears, and minds attuned to the common ground. Hi, I'm Bill Miller, and these are 8 of my fans: Diana, John, Robbie, Julia, Susan, Miles, Robin, and Alexandria. Tonight we are focusing on separation of church and state. Let's celebrate America's greatest diversity of thought, and shine a light on some common ground.
You were like a shadow that I was hiding in.
I think I'm gonna break this open then.
Go for it.
So I was raised Catholic, South American family, Peru and Ecuador. But I also recently found out about my indigenous roots, and I connect with that more than I have ever with my Catholic roots. So then it becomes a conversation with family or friends, like if they are a particular religion and then you're not, then a lot of times you're shunned if you're not a particular religion, and then so the conversation stops. And so I feel, you know, I have an uncle who's an evangelical Baptist theologian, Samuel Escobar from Peru. He was very, very, of course, Christian, and we had great conversations, and I would read about liberation theology and loved it. But at the same time, when I say that I'm not a Christian or a Catholic or any European religion or any organized religion, then a lot of times I find that I've gotten shunned.
I'm really curious to know your position, since you're a pastor, on this subject. How do you approach it?
For as far as the separation of church and state,
Yeah.
man, you know, I think for everybody, there's a couple of things with the whole deal when you think about the idea of separation of church and state. I guess my Christian viewpoint and where my faith is, you know, I look at this way. The faith I have is in Jesus Christ. And that's what I believe. I believe he is the Son of God. I believe that if you read in Scripture, you're going to see that Jesus, you know, speaks love. He speaks truth. He speaks peace, hope. I mean, all these things, when I think of these things personally, I think of them as things that are good and positive things. Those are not, you know, negative things to me, right? So when I think of those things, I think of our country and I think of our states. Why would I not want those things in our government? Why would I not want those things to be seen in our communities and in our states and our homes, right? So I kind of like it and favor it in some ways. And then I look at the other aspect of it and say, well, do I want my government, do I want my state even, or my community, the city that I live in, to be able to govern when I preach or when I go to church or when I, you know, want to worship the way that I worship? Should I have to be allowed to do that, or should I be allowed to do what I wish because I am a citizen of the United States, right? And we're living in a free country, a country that was founded on religious beliefs. I will say, my personal belief is in Jesus Christ, and I understand that there are other religions and faiths, and my faith in Jesus, and if I read his word, tells me that I should love my neighbor, right? And it tells me that I shouldn't judge. It tells me to be good to others and do unto others as I'd have them do unto me. So personally, I kind of weigh on both sides of it, but I believe that you know, if you want to worship however you want to worship and who you want to worship, as far as I'm concerned, that's your right and your free will to do so.
My family is packed with Christian nationalists. So that I had the viewpoint, I was going to political rallies when I was a child with my family. and I saw how politics made, because my mother was in politics, I saw how politics made my mother bitter and my family angry.
Right.
And we were, you know, Christians, but it didn't show in the political arena, you know. And they didn't approach it as a, well, let's just all let people do what they want to do and like try to get along somehow. It was more like, if you don't believe the way I believe and you don't vote the way I vote, then you're not a Christian.
Right.
So that's what, whenever I encounter someone who is, like when we talk about separation of church and state, I get cringy because I grew up in all of it, and it's like kind of triggering to me, to be honest. So,
Right.
but that's why I'm really interested, because I didn't grow up with pastors who were open-minded. So you seem to be.
And I'll be honest, I mean, there's times where I have not been as open-minded.
I like what I'm hearing, but at the same time, I guess I need to represent the voice that's never heard, and that's the indigenous voice. You know, because Christianity was actually Catholicism. Christianity, it was a political tool that was used to to
Found countries.
do genocide and basically kill my ancestors, and some of my ancestors were killing my other ancestors. And you know, in Mexico City, there's a book that the Spanish Crown had, and it was a caste system of how light or dark a person's skin was. And then a person was cast as either indigenous or European or Criollo or whatever, based on the color of the skin. And that was also part of the Spanish Inquisition. Like Lima became, in Peru, became the Inquisition, the seat of the Inquisition in the New World, in the Americas. But, you know, so it's either you convert it to Catholicism, to some kind of Christianity, or you perished.
Right.
And so, like, I'm sitting here today as that somehow I've survived, and whether it was because people had to become Catholic or Christian in order to survive, or die. And so, you know, that's the indigenous in this country, and we're all, I mean, who knows how many of us are indigenous that we don't even know. And I feel like we can't have a full conversation about separation of church and state if we don't talk about how religion was a tool of genocide.
So we're in the year of 2022. We still said the pledges of allegiance with God in it and God we trust. How does that make you feel as like an indigenous person?
It's a hard thing to feel. And even before I knew more of my roots, I would still chafe at that, because the reason for separation of church and state is not to say, no, you can't practice your religion. It was, yes, practice your religion. But it's not, we do not want the government, the king or whoever, to dictate what religion is going to be the religion of the country, or that people could be imprisoned for their religion, whether it's indigenous or Christian. Unfortunately, indigenous people were killed for practicing their religion, the ghost dance, Sundance. And so, again, you have to convert to Christianity, Catholicism in order to, so there, you know, when that happens, you don't have the separation of church and state that William Penn wisely realized that because he had been in prison, that we need to have the separation of church and state. Practice your religion, but don't use it in a governmental capacity. And the Pledge of Allegiance was not endemic to the beginning. That came as a patriotic impulse later on. So it's not even part of our beginning as a history.
And neither is In God We Trust.
Neither is In God We
You know,
Trust.
Eisenhower did that.
Yeah.
And so that's not, you know, a lot of people think that, you know, that was part of the founding fathers, but, you know, it wasn't. But, you know.
Still, we're still punishing you in a way by making you say it.
Definitely.
We've gotten in a world that we're so PC.
Politically correct.
Right. Yeah.
Veiled up in
you know,
little
you're
bits
Kind of
and
eggshells. You're like, I don't want to make.
And can I say that to you?
Yeah,
Can I say
it's-
that, or you know, you're going to be offended? So you get to a point where you're wondering if you should talk to someone about whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I don't feel like it's a valid thing for you to feel like you can't talk about Christianity, because you can, really, in all sincerity. You can. Your rights have not been taken away. The rights that have been taken away still are, to this day, prosecuted and oppressed, and I'm going to use that word, oppressed. And so for me, that it's very uncomfortable to hear you say, not you, like,
Because I was going to say, it wasn't me. Because I couldn't really touch on that. and
that's
said-
my Spanish coming out.
Well, I had that same, I went through that same thing. I think
Truly.
everybody does.
Yeah.
But when you feel like you don't have to be the dominant, I took my own opinion, my own mind, and my own spirit. I just want to be on a very minuscule self. I want to be myself. I want God to be the best out of me.
Sure.
You know, because
Nothing
I don't
wrong with
believe
that.
anybody dominating anymore.
Right.
Let's just love each other, be free. You know, and
Most every
use your
day,
voice.
I just pray to
Yeah.
God. I said, I have a purpose today, and if I can give my life to somebody else,
Exactly.
Amen.
please,
Amen.
please give me the
Right.
courage to follow your calling. You know, and that's. Otherwise, we all start worrying about ourselves. Then you
And
get
at
back
the same
around
time,
again.
I'm just so grateful that I am here, because, I mean, if I was in some other countries, you know, I wouldn't be able to. I mean, there are still several countries that, you know, it's one religion. I mean, there's still several countries where it's one religion, and it's, you know, women don't have rights and things like that. So at the same time, I'm like, yeah, we have things we need to work on, but I'm also very, you know, grateful that we're here and we can have these talks and we can have the freedom to have these discussions and speak openly.
I get what you're saying. Like, by far, we have always been, I guess, the standard religion, or the biggest religion, Christianity. And so I won't argue that, but I think the fear and the things that come from it is the fear of losing that.
If I'm like identifying as being raised as a Catholic, then we are in that seat of privilege of being the dominant religion. And if we feel like we are under attack as Christians, Catholics, can you imagine what it feels like for those who are not, which is your point exactly.
Sure.
And, you know, Jewish faith, Muslim, I mean, nobody has said that word at this table because it's a difficult word to say in the United States in the current climate. But Muslims,
Right.
you know, so many other religions. And why are we so afraid of that?
I don't think most people are afraid, but
No.
even in Israel right now, they're really trying to take down Jewish faith.
As long as you have a choice, that's our
I
freedom.
don't.
Right.
Right.
What is behind that? I don't think it's people with
Right.
faith. I think it's more of a
There's a lot
government
of-
control, powerful corporations that run the world.
I agree, like, we need to educate people about it.
Right.
But we're not moving
Yeah.
in that direction at all.
Right.
They're taking religion out of schools. Now they don't want to talk about, you know, Black history and stuff. So it's like, we're going backwards in a sense. Like, we need to have
Yeah.
these
And I think that's,
conversations.
you know, you talking about separation of church and state was, you know, removing the Pledge of Allegiance, removing prayer from school, removing those things. I mean, what are your thoughts on those things?
Well, I believe it's separation of church and state. It's keeping the state out of the church. Now, there's a lot of good things that faith-based organizations do, and different faiths of all peoples, but it's actually keeping them out of us and let us be our people, you know, as a nation.
Right.
Yeah.
So should you only practice your religion then in the worship space and not in the schools, or?
Well, if it flows into the government, I think we'd be a much better nation, you know?
But you have to think about it this way too. There's two sides to the wall.
Right. I
You
mean,
know,
there's
it's like-
countries over there with nukes, so somehow we got to defend ourselves. But
No,
you
no,
know,
no. What I'm saying is, you have the separation of church and state theory idea is to keep church or state out of the church's affairs, but it's also to keep the church out of the state's affairs. I mean, it's a two-sided wall.
Are they
Right.
intertwined anyway? I mean, when you think about,
They shouldn't,
But they
that's
are.
the idea.
but they are,
But they
because
do.
when someone gets sworn in or something,
Yeah.
they're sworn in on the Bible.
So where's the line?
Well,
But that's based
and
on the
also
person,
too, if problems are created, then the government can step in and take power over whatever faith or church it is. And so we have separation of church and state, but the government has the power to be in control over, evil or people doing wrong things to each other.
Right.
And if they can connect that to any church organization, then they are a part of it.
Well, there's a lot of good churches, though, that still want to take our voice away,
Yeah.
our freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Then you run into things about, Waco and David Koresh, and it's like, where is the line? That fell more under, that occurred more out of guns and things like that, that kind of thing. But technically, it was a religion, and so where is the line? Who gets to decide?
I think that's
when
the
the
problem. Who gets to
government
decide?
intervenes, and it's okay as long as it's not your religion. But then when does it become, And we started seeing that even just these past couple of years with COVID. We had several churches that said, we're not going to close. We are going to meet. And then here came, what would be state, authorities to say, no, you cannot meet.
Right.
And whether you agree with that or not, it's like, where is the line? Where does that line get to be drawn?
Right.
And who decides what the line is?
Right,
I feel
because
like has a higher power, the state or the church?
Right.
I don't think we've decided that.
Right.
It's always like this, it seems like. And
I believe that we're spiritual beings. I'm sure Rob and everybody here
Right.
would admit to it. Because once we physically die, I believe our spirits go somewhere. So the people that, that didn't want to wear masks and stuff, it ain't that they're trying to continue on a bad virus that very well could have been, snared by man, but just not having the fear of death, just not giving in to the fears of, a lot of things, that each one of us can be afraid of.
that makes sense. You're talking about your spirituality, but like sometimes we need to separate that and care about our neighbors who aren't
Right,
worried about worship, but I'm still putting them in danger.
Or who don't want to die.
Yeah, but I'm going to church and I'm not wearing my mask, and then I come out and I hang out with a friend who's not going to church. And I hate to bring up COVID, but it's like we got to separate our spirituality and think about our neighbor and love people, how we always preach. Sometimes it's in that form, like that's loving people, but sacrificing and not doing what's comfortable for us.
It all goes back to empathy.
Yeah, it's empathy, and I think we're missing that. We like to say love people, love
definitely.
God, but under my terms and my condition.
Yep.
It's like,
I think it comes down to moral compass. When on the whole big picture of things.
With COVID, that was a very interesting argument to see,
We can
I know people that said, oh, well, our church is requiring masks now, and some people didn't wear their masks, and they would say, oh, well, I can't believe they're coming in here, they're killing they're killing their fellow churchgoers, and so, I kind of see both sides, and at the same time, are you using God to protect your viewpoint? You know what I'm saying? But
I'm sure everybody that went to the church went on their own merit.
Right.
It wasn't like they were like.
And that's what that was my thing. If you're that worried about it, I know my church offered different options. Obviously, you could watch online, but they had, separate, you could go to our fellowship hall area where it was more separated, and that kind of thing. So if you came in and you thought there were too many people or you were uncomfortable because some were wearing masks, some weren't wearing masks, But again, you're starting to see that play out and where that politics, because I do believe a lot of that, yes, it's a health concern, but a lot of it was driven by politics.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Whichever side you fell on, whether you were going to wear a mask or not,
And a lot of
is
people
so
did it out of
weird.
fear, though.
A lot of people
Yeah.
did it out of fear too, yeah.
played a lot of it out of fear.
But I think it's wrong for the government to to play that game to cause people to fear things too. And I'm not saying that they did it all the time, but I'm saying I have seen that before, I think. And like in California, I'm not sure, but I was, when all the COVID stuff was going on, I heard of like officials. There was one minister that was preaching online, and he was talking about how they had told him if he didn't shut his doors that they were going to fine him, and they fined him. I can't tell you how many times. It seemed like it was a lot though. But it was just, I think that's wrong. I mean, I have no issue with doing things, I think, to be smart and do the right thing for humanity, right? I mean, we're one race, right? We're trying to do everything we can to preserve everybody that we can and not kill anybody with a disease. I mean, who would want to do that? I lost people during this mess that were very near and dear to me. So it's a tough deal. But I really think it all boils down to we're human beings with brains, and we all have common sense, right?
No.
I think, well, we should. We should all use common sense and practice common sense. I believe
be
that
nice.
there
Or
are
at least
people that
act like
struggle
it.
with that. I agree with you.
Have
I
you
agree
driven
with
on the interstate?
I know.
You know?
But I believe that we
really.
should exercise that common sense still. You know, yes, if we're going to be around a large group of people, let's practice safe distancing. Let's practice, if need be, a mask.
too, like-
you know,
The,
but
the government tells us to do things like wear our seatbelt and stop at red lights too, but nobody puts up a fuss about that, you know?
Right.
I don't like them telling me to
But
wear my
it's,
seatbelt.
but it's safety, you know? It's like to keep people safe
Right.
because people don't have common sense.
And I think we need to realize too, like loving people is uncomfortable. Look at Jesus; he died on the
Right.
cross, got crucified, but he loved us, and he did it out of love. So it's like
Right.
maybe you might hate wearing a mask and being with people, but you're doing it out of love, and you're saying, okay, I respect you, and I love you, and I value you, and I see you as, you know, as a Christian, we see everyone children of God.
Right.
So we're like, you know, so it's kind of like love is uncomfortable.
And the fact, though, even during the pandemic, if that's more exposed where people were giving their time or helping others, and the people all end up being okay, maybe that wouldn't have shined a positive light upon their control over what everybody could do or could not do.
Look
So,
how
you
we
know,
came
they would've-
together
Yeah.
as a nation. You know,
we had no choice.
no, we were stripped of everything,
Yeah.
and we forgot how to be human. You know,
That's what they
It was
wanted
a
us
nice
to do.
reset.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
As you
but
say, treat others the
common
way
sense says don't let them do it.
you want to be treated, and I really do think that should be our government motto. I mean,
Right.
isn't the government us anyway, as we say, we the people?
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Oh, wow.
Here is dessert. Yes, let's pass them around. Southern style, we are in Tennessee.
Wait, which is
Thank you.
what
Thank you.
flavors? What?
Thank you.
This is,
Oh,
we are in
my.
Tennessee. So
I'll let you go.
Bill and I, one of our favorite places to go to get the best donut on the planet, in our opinion, is Five Daughters Bakery.
Yes.
So we got two of their signature styles here. We got the chocolate sea salt with sweet buttercream.
Yum.
100-layer donut. That's another one of their signatures right there, the Purest, which is a 100-layer donut also.
I want chocolate.
Bill is more or less my savior on this earth.
Oh, no.
No, you know, many years ago, like I said, I heard a song, and it really kind of brought me back to my faith. You did.
Thanks, John. I didn't know it until you get in touch with your fans, or it's a strange name, fans, but friends, or who love your music and not only love it, but have understood the emotions in my music. And I just appreciate you guys for doing that, because that's what it's about. It's a total connection to my soul when I play. Dark river, black sky, change is coming, don't cry, talk with angels, walk with the men, seek your vision until the end.
you cry. Dark river, black skies, change is coming, don't cry. Talk with angels, walk with men. You have to seek your vision until the end of National